Apologize to Ryan Day. Everything we said about Ryan Day up until the playoffs was true.
Not bad. Come on, Kenner. You can do better than that.
To be fair, of all the elite quarterbacks in the NFL, Joe Burrow is the least accomplished.
Getting better.
1,000,000%. I 1,000,000% believe that the Dayton Flyers are afraid of the Wright State Raiders. That's why they come up with every excuse in the book not to play them.
There it is. The hottest take of them all. It's the Justin Kenner Show, presented by Frickers, live on 1410 ESPN Radio.
All right, everybody, we welcome you in live here on a Monday. The Justin Kenner Show presented by Frickers. Frickers, your home for fun food, sports, and spirits. Off for a week, missed a lot, a ton to catch back up on, but I don't think in a million years that I expected that I'd be cracking the mic coming back from vacation talking about the Cincinnati Reds playoff bound. They did it. I don't get it. I really don't. I'm not going to sit here. I heard Jim Day yesterday. I love Jim Day. But I heard Jim Day yesterday in the postgame getting real defensive about people saying that the Reds backdoored their way into the playoffs. Look, I don't really care how you get there. I don't care what has to happen to get there. It's 162 games in a regular season. It's a long season. I mean, I just thought about this. I went to a Reds game 2 weeks ago, and I'm like, man, I haven't been to a Reds game since opening day. And I felt like opening day was just a few weeks ago, maybe a few months ago at most. Now, that was all the way back in March. It was, March 26th or 27th? To play baseball from March all the way till late September, luck has a lot to do with it. Getting defensive about the Reds backdooring their way into the playoffs, I don't care how they did it. They did backdoor their way into the playoffs, by the way. Getting defensive about that is kind of silly. You know how many things have to go right for you to make the playoffs? If it took the Mets having an all-time collapse for the Reds to make the playoffs, then so be it. There were other teams right there that could have benefited from the Mets collapse that didn't. The Cincinnati Reds benefited from the Mets collapse. The Diamondbacks didn't. The Giants didn't. Hell, the Mets didn't benefit from it. That's for damn sure. But the Cincinnati Reds are in the playoffs, and I never would have thought, like, we knew it. So I think it was yesterday. I shared this on my Facebook page yesterday that we had Marty Brennaman on a year ago at this time. There had just started to be some rumors circulating that the Reds could potentially kick the tires on going to get Terry Francona as their manager. Now, we all expected what I expected was a Skip Schumacher. That's who I expected to be the Reds manager, right? I expected that to be either the name or that level of a name. I did not expect the Reds to go for a home run hire. And I got really annoyed when people started downplaying the significance of going to get a Terry Francona just because you guys didn't like the type of moves that the Reds made in the offseason. You know, we didn't think that moving on from Jonathan India to get a Brady Singer, we didn't think that that was the sexiest move in the world, but it ended up being a very, very good move. You know, I know Brady Singer didn't pitch his best yesterday, but that's the guy that was on the mound on the day that the Reds clinched a playoff spot. Yes, they lost, and I said that too. The Reds made the playoffs in the most Cincinnati Reds way possible. The Reds lose on a day where a win guaranteed them a playoff spot, but they needed help. That's how it's been all year. They've lost the games that they should. They've lost the games that they shouldn't. They win the games that they shouldn't, and that's what happened yesterday. They should have won. They didn't, and they got rewarded for it. That's been the Reds all season. Who cares? They backdoor their way into the postseason. Someone had to benefit from the Mets free falling, and that was the Cincinnati Reds. You got to understand, even if the Reds would have barely missed the playoffs, considering where they were a year ago, considering what they didn't do in the offseason, considering that this is basically the same roster that they have thrown out the last couple of years, barring more progression from some of these young players that they've called into the system in recent years, this has pretty much been it. This is why you brought in Terry Francona. Terry Francona was brought in. There was rumors years ago that the Reds were going to go this route possibly. I expected to skip Schumacher level higher. They did not go that route. They went for the home run higher. It was greeted with a ton of optimism and excitement, but then that excitement got watered down because the Reds didn't go make a lot of big splash moves in the offseason. You look at the Mets. We keep sitting here and assuming that the Cincinnati Reds need to spend money like the New York Mets. I would love for the Reds to spend money like the Mets, but as you just saw, the Mets spend money, and they thought that it was just a guaranteed playoff spot. That ended up not being the case. That was not the case. It's not about the right money you spend. It's about the right fit. It's about Gavin Lux was not a sexy offseason addition. It wasn't a big name, but it was the right fit. Andujar, one of my favorite players. I expect to see him in the 2-hole tomorrow. We're going to talk about the Reds-Dodgers coming up here in a moment and that matchup, the significance of it. They go out and they got Andujar from the A's at the trade deadline. My gosh, we wanted Eugenio Suarez. We wanted these big names, and I still do. But it wasn't about the big names, the big splash, the big dollars, it was about the right fit. Everything that the Reds did was about the right fit, and they made the right moves. They brought in the right guys. In year one of Terry Francona, and all you stat nerds out there that I don't like the way he's batting Ellie De La Cruz. I don't like where he has Matt McClain. I don't like where he's batting Tyler Stevenson. I don't like Bill Benson. This blah, 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 blah. You don't know more than Terry Francona. Terry Francona, everywhere he goes, he wins. Everywhere he goes, they go to the playoffs. And then I said this was my fear about Terry Francona coming to Cincinnati when this all came about, because I said the last time the Reds had a Hall of Fame caliber manager, Reds fans thought they knew more than that guy, and we pushed him out of town. Y'all remember Dusty Baker? That guy, all he ever did is every team he went to, they won. They went to the playoffs. Then we as Reds fans thought we were, too cool for school. We thought we knew more than Dusty Baker. So we told Dusty Baker to get the hell out of here. Dusty Baker just went to go win. Won a World Series since then. And what have the Reds done since? Lose. Change manager. Oh, look, a funny TikTok from Joey Votto. Change manager. Then you bring in a Hall of Fame level manager, and guess what? The ingredients for the meal, not the best ingredients for the meal, but he was the guy to come in and make the best meal for absolutely everybody. The Reds are in the postseason. That's all that matters. I don't care how they got there. I see a lot of people being negative. Thanks, New York Mets. Yes, thank you, New York Mets. Thank you. Thank you, Diamondbacks, for also not winning enough games down the stretch. Thank you, Giants, for not winning enough games down the stretch. By the way, thank you to them. They just fired their manager today. Thank you, Mets. Thank you, everybody. Why is this always about, all these other teams, they didn't do what they were supposed to. That's why the Reds got in there. That means all the teams that didn't do what they were supposed to, the Reds did just a little more than they did, and that's why they're in the postseason. It's 162 games. It's a season that starts in March. It ends for most teams, typically the Cincinnati Reds, at the end of September. A select few good teams get to go on and play extended baseball, maybe just by a week, maybe by 3 weeks. Who knows? The Reds get an additional week at the very least. Right now, we should be talking about, the Reds wrapped up their season. I wonder what, scrap heap free agent we're going to see them get. It's not about that today. No, it's about the Reds in the postseason, something that hasn't been done since 2020. And I don't count 2020. I don't care about 2020. It was a truncated, COVID-shortened season. It was only 20 games or 60 games long. And the Reds, they had to backdoor their way into that playoff as well. And as brutal, right? The Reds have not played in a real playoff game in over 12 years. I mean, it has been a long time since this team is going to go play in a playoff game with fans in attendance after a full season, Hall of Fame manager, an all-star player in Ellie De La Cruz, who, my God, could we just put him in the outfield? But we'll have that conversation for later. That's another thing. I thought that was going to be our off-season conversation to start the very first day that the off-season comes about. We get to wait. We get to wait to talk about that. The Reds are in the playoffs. If you want to be negative and complain about the ugly playoff shirts. Did you see those playoff shirts? I hate those playoff shirts. I'm not a big fan of those playoff shirts. That thing I'm not a fan of. But the Reds are in the playoffs. I don't really care what they wear. I don't care what they wear. The Reds and the Dodgers tomorrow night. The Reds and the Dodgers Wednesday night. And hopefully the Reds and the Dodgers on Thursday. Now, I say that. I mean, it would be nice if the Reds could take care of the Dodgers in 2 games. But the question I have for everybody, I wanted to open the show with just this big, long, open disclaimer. Think back to where we were a year ago at this time and think to where we are at right now. Think back to all the negativity. By the way, I have no problem admitting I was a hypocrite. I announced the season dead and buried probably a good 5, 6, 7, 8 times a month. The Reds got swept by the A's. I said they didn't deserve to make the playoffs. Probably, at times I feel that way because when the Reds went down yesterday, I'm like, they're going to lose. The Mets are going to win, and the Reds aren't going to miss the playoffs because, oh, man, they couldn't sweep the Brewers. They were going to miss the playoffs because they couldn't even get 1 game against the A's. But you know what? It doesn't matter because it didn't matter. Even if they would have got 1 game against the A's, it just would have been us celebrating 1 day earlier. I'm glad they got it done yesterday. I'm glad that we got to see it come down to literally the very last out of that Mets game. I'm glad that we got to see Jim Day get drunk on TV. I don't care what anybody says. I thought the guy looked drunk on TV. I thought everybody should have been drunk. Everyone should be celebrating with an alcoholic beverage in their hand, talking about the damn Cincinnati Reds in the playoffs. And who knows, it could be another 12, 13, 15, 20 years before we see the Reds back in the postseason again. But the only thing is we only got to wait, just a little over 24 hours before we see them in the playoffs. And that's what's going to happen tomorrow night. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to step away. All right. And the question I have, and we're live on the Justin Kinner Show Facebook page. We're live on the ESPN Dayton YouTube channel, wherever you want to take the show in. First of all, thank you. Appreciate you. Missed you guys. Off a week. Glad to be back. And I can't believe week 4 of the NFL season, the Bengals are on Monday Night Football. The Browns got their ass kicked yesterday. Ohio State gets a big win on Saturday in a very tough environment. It gets a very good quality team and opponent in the Big Ten opener against Washington. Lots of stuff to talk about. And somehow, some way, for the first time in my 10-year radio career, we are talking about the Reds and the playoffs, the real playoffs, not the 2020 playoffs, the real playoffs. I'm jacked. I'm excited. The question I have, though, is this a Cinderella mid-major type story? Did the Reds just auto-qualify out of their small mid-major conference for the NCAA tournament, or do they have a chance to make some noise? Do the Reds have what it takes to beat the Dodgers? Is this series over before it starts? Is the Reds playoff story, is it over just because they made it and that's all that matters? Or can this team make some noise? Will we get a chance to see this team take their playoff show and bring it to Great American Ballpark? Are we going to be able to see them at Great American Ballpark next week? That's the question I have. Deep down, they're not better than the Dodgers. They shouldn't beat the Dodgers, but do they have what it takes to upset the Dodgers? That's what I want to talk about when we come back. It's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers. Frickers, your home for fun food, sports, and spirits. We'll be right back.
You know that thing called AI, supposed to make the workplace super efficient? Well, there's
The Hall of Famer, Hal McCoy, he's going to join us coming up here around the corner, actually top of the hour. The Hall of Famer, Hal McCoy, we haven't talked to him in quite some time. In fact, the last time we had the Hall of Famer on, we were talking about the Reds at the trade deadline coming out of the All-Star break. Now, ironically enough, the team that they beat coming out of the All-Star break was the New York Mets, and we didn't realize how big of a series that was coming out of the break until now, when, of course, not only did they beat the Mets coming out of the All-Star break, they beat them again just at home a couple weeks ago. And that was a stretch where, of course, they took 2 or 3 from the Mets at home, and then they went to San Diego, and they took 2 or 3 from the Padres over there, and then we thought, oh, man, they're going to take this spot and hold on to it. Then they got swept by the A's. And that was like probably the 50th time I'd quit on this team, no doubt about it. But somehow, some way, I don't get it. It just doesn't make any sense. I don't get it. The Reds clinched. The Reds, I mean, and like I said, it's just funny to me because the way they did it yesterday, I told some people I appreciate everyone who came out to the Sunday morning tailgate yesterday when we were at Frickers. We're going to be at a Frickers every Sunday all the way through Super Bowl Sunday. We'll talk about that more in a moment, where we're going to be this weekend. But I said the Reds are going. This is how the Reds are going to make the postseason. I was confident yesterday they were going to get in, but I was not confident that they were going to win. I was like, they're going to do this. The only way it makes sense for the Reds to get into the playoffs is for them to lose on the final day of the regular season and rely on the Mets to lose to put them in, because that's how they got here. Now, everyone takes it as a slight at the Reds. I heard Jim, I said this to open at the show, Jim Day and others got really defensive about people saying that the Reds backdoored their way into the postseason. Jim, I love you, but the Reds, guess what? They backdoored their way like crazy into the playoffs. And I'll take it. I'll take it over going another 15 years of watching this team miss the playoffs. And the cool thing is, this might be the worst version of the Reds in the Terry Francona era moving forward. Might be. I'm hoping it is. I'm hoping that this is the worst roster that Terry Francona has in the remaining years that he is the manager of the Cincinnati Reds. That's what's in my head. I'm choosing to be positive now, because all of you, including me, how many times have I said, well, we know how this movie ends? To me, this movie was not supposed to end in Los Angeles, and it's probably going to end in Los Angeles. Maybe it ends next week against God knows who. Has anyone? I've been so excited. I haven't even checked to see what exactly who they'd go on to play next, because I don't think many of us envision this team going to the next round. But it could happen. They shouldn't be here. We said they couldn't even get here. They're here. Oh, there's no way they could beat the Dodgers. Well, you also, including me, we've been telling everybody there's no way that they can get here. They clinched. That's all that matters. All right. And the schedule for the Reds moving forward, here's what the Reds have released again for the postseason. Game 1 tomorrow night. We're going to have hopefully 3. And if it is just 2, hopefully the Reds are coming out on both sides of that. But the Reds, game 1 against the Dodgers tomorrow night. We'll have it right here on 1410 ESPN Radio, 9:38 first pitch. With 9:08 first pitch with an 8:38 pregame coverage. We'll start right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. We're going to talk about this series with Hal McCoy coming up around the corner. So I sit here and this is it. 162 games. I'm so glad that they've done away with that one and done wild card. You guys remember that? You guys remember you play 162 games just to play one playoff game? Ugh, I hated that. I thought that was ridiculous. But at least, so then I started to be negative yesterday. Man, the Reds don't even get a home game out of this. I will take a 3-game series to give them a chance. With this pitching, guys, like to sit here and act like the Reds don't have a chance. This is why I wanted to get to this. It was announced earlier today that the wild card round game 1 starter for your Cincinnati Reds is Hunter Green. Guys, the strength of this team all year, I think we've overlooked the strength of this team all year just because of the inconsistencies. One game, the Reds will put up 250,000 runs, and the next game they'll put up negative 10 runs. Dramatic. I know, always with the dramatics with me. But you guys get it. Like, this team is so inconsistent offensively that it has always put us in a position where we have overlooked just how damn good this pitching staff is from top to bottom. From top to bottom. I talked about it in the opening segment. I said so many people after the hire of Terry Francona, we weren't as excited about this season even after the hire of Terry Francona, because we thought Terry Francona coming to Cincinnati meant, oh man, they're not bringing Terry Francona here just to have the same old boring, no excitement offseason. Guess what they did? The same old boring, no excitement offseason. But if you're always looking for the bigger, sexier names, I think we're always going to be disappointed. This idea that the Reds are going to go bring the biggest, best free agent names here, That's not going to happen, which is why when they did that to go get the best free agent manager available, and to be honest, I think the best manager in baseball, period, that was a surprise to us. But look at the Mets. The Mets are a prime example. The team that helped us get into the playoffs, they spent every dime imaginable. And yet here they were going up against the Cincinnati Reds, one of the least spending teams in baseball, trying to position themselves for that final wild card spot. Spending a lot of money doesn't guarantee you anything. You can go buy the biggest, all the talent in the world, but if it's not a good fit, who cares? You mean to tell me that we would have loved a Juan Soto in Cincinnati, right? I wanted Francisco Lindor years ago. Thank goodness we didn't get him because of the great, shortstop we have now. I mean, think of all the errors we would not see our shortstop commit. Just move Ellie to the outfield. Have I mentioned that yet? But that's besides the point. The bottom line is it a good fit? All the guys that you're going to go spend money on, are they going to be a good fit? Because you could make an argument that the Reds had a better offseason than the Mets, even though they went and signed a $500 million player, almost $1 billion player in Juan Soto. Give me what the Reds did in the offseason to make this team what it is right now, which put them in position to make this postseason. Lytle was not a sexy name to go get at the All-Star break or at the trade deadline. But it wasn't about going to get the best name available. It was about going to get a good fit. Lytle fit what the Reds were looking for. They didn't know when Hunter Green was going to be available coming out of the All-Star break. They didn't know when Nick Lodolo was going to be available coming out of the All-Star break. They knew what they envisioned. They envisioned this idea that, okay, Chase Burns, we're going to use the hell out of him, but we also, if we do find ourselves in the postseason, we're going to have burned up all his innings. So they had to get creative. Lytle was a good fit. Not a sexy name, not even the best pitcher. Great fit, though. Right? Like even in the offseason when they went out and they made the moves, and Jose Trevino, not the sexiest name. And not only did they go get him, they also gave him a 3-year extension. I remember everyone pissed off that they gave him a 3-year extension. That ended up being one hell of a move by the Reds. Wasn't the sexiest name. It was a great fit. Everything with this team is about great fit. And when you look at what is great about this team, it is this pitching staff, it is this rotation, and it is Hunter Green. I said, and you guys know this, and for those who listen regularly, I've been saying this consistently when it comes to if the Reds do make the postseason, they have the tools to compete in the postseason. They have one of the best pitching staffs in baseball right now. Like it's not even up for debate when you look at some of these. And I'm going to go, and on tomorrow's show, we're going to rank the pitching staffs across all the teams in the postseason. I've talked with a few guys today that we were kind of looking at this, breaking it down, and the Reds arguably have a top 3 pitching staff in this rotation. And when it comes to this postseason right now, the Reds are probably one of the most well-equipped teams to combat the Dodgers. When you look at that lineup, when you look at what they have up and down that lineup, the Reds actually have the pitching to combat it. The Dodgers lineup has struggled all season against the Reds pitching. The problem is the Reds have been inconsistent offensively, but I want pitching in October. There is they have so many versatile pitchers in this rotation, in just in this staff to begin with. You have a Chase Burns who could throw a lot of innings, right? Because he's supposed to be a starter. You have Nick Martinez who can throw as little as 1 inning, can give you up to 3 or 4. Right? Like that's what this team Lytle, the same thing. Like, to me, you have 3 games, really 2, to make an immediate impact. Don't leave any bullets left in the chamber. They have to see what Terry Francona is going to do with this pitching staff, I am excited about it. To see how creative he's going to get, I am kind of excited about it. Derek Johnson doesn't get enough credit. Shout out to Trace Fowler from Chatterbox. I saw him tweet this out earlier today. The one guy that does not get any credit whatsoever is Derek Johnson, the pitching coach for the Cincinnati Reds. This team has been so damn good all season long. Even when their bullpen started to get worn out a little bit and we started to kind of be critical of that, they found a way to pitch and navigate the way through they found a way to navigate through all of the offensive inconsistencies. And that's where we're at here. So do I feel like the Reds have enough to upset the Dodgers? Well, Justin, they're not going to upset the Dodgers. That's why it's called an upset. Play along. We're talking Reds playoff baseball in September, baby. That's all I care about. They do have what it takes to upset the Dodgers. They do. They have the most important thing that you need to upset the Dodgers. Because as long as you keep that lineup from piling up runs inning after inning after inning, you're going to keep that door open on the road when anything can happen in the postseason. It's the hardest postseason to make, in my opinion. It's way easier, and this is coming from a Browns fan, way easier to make the playoffs in the NFL. Way easier. I mean, everyone makes the playoffs in the NBA. It's tough to make it in the NHL, but it's to me, it's way easier to make it in the NHL than Major League Baseball. Look what had to happen for the Reds to backdoor their way into the postseason. Right? Like, it's kind of hard to blueprint that for next year. Hey, if we do exactly what we did this year, the only thing we need is, another epic collapse from one of the highest spending teams in baseball to make it. No, it's so hard to make the playoffs. This team has a lot of deficiencies. They have a lot of problems. But their number one strength is their pitching, and it kept them in it all season long, and it put them in position to be there, sitting there, waiting for the Mets to finish their collapse. And to act like that's an easy thing to do, then why aren't the Giants in the playoffs? Why aren't the Diamondbacks in the playoffs? Why aren't the Cardinals in the playoffs? Why aren't all the teams that were sitting right there along with the Reds in a log jam, waiting to watch the Mets fall right past them? Why aren't those teams in it? It's tough to make the playoffs, and the Reds were better than those other teams because the Reds had what those other teams didn't, and that's a ton of depth at pitching, and that's what the Reds have heading into the postseason. I'm Justin Kinner. It's the Justin Kinner Show, 1410 ESPN Radio. Again, we're going to be joined by the Hall of Famer Hal McCoy coming up here in about a half hour. The Reds, again, they clinched that playoff spot. One more time, if you're just joining us and watching live on the stream, whether it's on our YouTube channel or Facebook or wherever, game 1 tomorrow night, 9:08 the first pitch, 8:38 pregame coverage for you right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. Game 2 on Tuesday night or Wednesday night, and then if needed, game 3 on Thursday, as far as that's concerned. All right, I haven't had a chance to read through all of the comments in the chat. Appreciate everyone's involvement. I'm going to get to those. I'm going to go through and comb through the comments. I'm going to highlight the best ones, and we're going to respond to those when we come back. It's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers. I've given you my thoughts on this. I think that the Reds have the most important piece to the puzzle to go and combat the Dodgers, and that's pitching. Hunter Green, I know Blake Snell's going to be on the mound tomorrow night against Hunter Green, but I believe that the Reds have the better pitcher. Hunter Green is better than, to me, I'll take Hunter Green any day. When you look at what Hunter Green has done down the stretch, I was critical of Hunter Green about a month ago when things started to get tightened up in the standings and he went out there and laid an egg. I said, you can't have that. You can't have your star player, your ace, your Cy Young caliber pitcher go out there and lay an egg the way that he did. But from that point on, he's been nails the entire time. I am so jacked to see Hunter Green on the mound, game 1 of the playoffs in Los Angeles at night at Dodger Stadium. That's going to be super exciting tomorrow. I love this pitching of this team. And I think when you have Andrew Abbott, when you have Nick Lodolo, when you have Hunter Green, when you have guys like that in this rotation, the Reds they're built to go against this Dodger team. You got to take Hunter Green out after 5. I love the Nick Martinez's of the world. I love the fact that they moved Chase Burns. I didn't like it initially, but now that we're here, now that the playoffs are here, the fact that you have a guy that throws the heat that he does coming out of the bullpen to go against the Shoheis of the world and the others, the Reds are in a very good spot. They're not favored to win this. They shouldn't be favored to win this, but they have exactly what you need to beat this Dodger team. Let me ask you, if the Reds had a better offensive lineup and a significantly worse rotation and pitching staff, would you feel better? Well, you could say, well, Justin, I want them to have pitching and hitting. I get that. But if you could only have one really good, strong side of the ball, I'm going to take pitching every day of the week, especially in the postseason. All right, I'll read your comments on the other side. Head to the Justin Kinner Show Facebook page. Head to ESPN Dayton's YouTube channel. Get involved in the chat. I'll read some of your responses, and we'll do that until we're joined by Hal McCoy coming up here just around the corner. It's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers right here on 1410 ESPN Radio.
Hey, Cordell Transportation is now hiring experienced
Hall of Famer Hal McCoy. He's going to join us here shortly. We'll talk about the Reds, of course, while doing something they haven't done since 2020, and that's, well, clinch a playoff spot. That's if you count 2020. I don't, but the bottom line is there was a playoff that year. There was a World Series champion that year, and we just know it wasn't the Cincinnati Reds. But the bottom line is a full 162-game season, all the ups, all the downs. I've counted this team out so many times, and yet somehow, some way, they are standing. And we're going to talk about that with Hal McCoy coming up here shortly. Do the Reds have what it takes to upset the Dodgers? Because we know, I mean, obviously there's so many reasons why this team should not beat the Dodgers, but that's why they call it an upset. So curious your guys' thoughts. 937-518-1410. If you want to call and get your spot in line, you could do that as well. But Roger, who's watching live on YouTube, appreciate that. ESPN Dayton's YouTube channel. Go and you can watch the show. Appreciate however you listen. But you can, of course, hang out with us on YouTube and Facebook, the Jocelyn Kinner Show Facebook page as well. Roger says, what up, Roger? Roger says, best of three with the better pitching. I'll take those odds. And I think that's kind of what we've spent the majority of the opening hour talking about, is the fact that, yes, like the one reason why the Reds are here, and everyone likes to say the Mets, that's not why the Reds are here. The Reds are here because of this pitching. And if the Reds can win a game in this series, it's going to be because of pitching. And if the Reds can win this series, it's going to be because of, yes, this pitching. And we're going to see that tomorrow night on display with Hunter Green on the mound. I'm super excited. Like, we've been hearing about, we've heard of Hunter Green coming up when the Reds drafted him as one of their best draft picks, or their biggest name draft picks in the history of the franchise, right? And then we see the immediate impact. We see the show. I mean, there was just something different about him whenever we got to see him in Dayton for that bit before the injury. And then to come back, and we saw glimpses of greatness, but then just the inconsistencies with the injuries. But last year was that coming out year for him. Finished 8th in Cy Young voting. Probably would have finished higher in that category had he not missed a good chunk of the season last year. I was critical of him this year because of, the injury proneness that seems to surround him. But he stayed healthy in the back half of the season, and he's been one of the most important pieces to the push to get them here into the postseason. So, yes, pitching in Hunter Green, who's going to be on the mound tomorrow night. That's one of the biggest things as far as that goes. Brian Weaver, what up, Brian? Brian says, with a short 3-game series with Green, Abbott, and Lodolo, yes, they can make a splash in the first round of the playoffs, but they will need timely hitting and some solid defense. No stupid throwing errors and little league running mistakes. Go Reds. First of all, you bring up a lot there, but that's the thing with like Hunter Green and Andrew Abbott. If that's your games 1 and 2 starters, because Andrew Abbott's better than Nick Lodolo. This is on me. I haven't seen who they're throwing in game 2. I saw that they were throwing Hunter Green in game 1. Brian, is that Alex? So are the Reds going with Abbott in 2? Because the rotation all year has been obviously Hunter Green with Nick Lodolo. That's who the Reds would love it to be. If the Reds' top 2 pitchers are, Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo, that's great. Andrew Abbott's been the best pitcher, guys. I mean, Andrew Abbott's actually had a better season than Hunter Green, even because he's been healthier. He didn't start out the season healthy, but since he's come back, he's been their, best attacker out there. I mean, I love any series, no matter who the Reds are playing. If Hunter Green and Andrew Abbott are your games 1 and 2 pitchers, I love that. I love that. But yeah, obviously Lodolo, he pitched yesterday in relief, so that the chances of him probably pitching Tuesday or Wednesday, very slim. It has to be Andrew Abbott. It has to be Andrew Abbott pitching that game 2. And if you have Hunter Green to Andrew Abbott, I've been high on Andrew Abbott all season. That's who it has to be at the end of the day. No doubt about it. But yes, there's a lot of things that have to go right for the Reds, but they have the most important piece to it, in my opinion, and that's the pitching. All right. Timely hitting has to be key. That's the one thing I loved about the Reds' attack over the last couple of days. Has been over the last week, their bats came alive. And they weren't just scoring runs, they were scoring runs early. We saw it yesterday. They scored runs early, and then they took their foot off the gas. 2 games ago, they jumped on them early and kept going, right? Like, yesterday was weird. It looked like they were about to pounce on the Mets early, and then all of a sudden they got cold. Not the Mets, I'm sorry. I kept saying the Mets, the Brewers. But what it almost felt like is, there was probably a lot of guys keeping an eye on what was going on with the Mets over with the Marlins, right? What I feel like is that they saw that the Marlins jumped on the Mets 4-0 early. The Reds jumped on the Brewers early. I'd almost felt like they caught wind of what happened over there in New York, and that, oh man, we could take our foot off the gas. We're getting help over there, right? Like the psyche of it, the mental side to it. That's the vibe I got, that someone somehow caught that score in that clubhouse and they took their foot off the gas. And that's what that felt like yesterday. And it almost cost them. They lost the game, of course, but luckily the Marlins held on to hold on to their lead. But man, oh man, it did feel like they kind of took their foot off the gas a little bit. No doubt about it. Damon Hahn, what up, Damon? He's on the Justin Kinner Show Facebook page. He says, totally agree. The pitching gives them a chance against anyone. And I mean it. Anyone. There's not a team in this playoffs. Okay, let's say you play the Yankees in the World Series. That lineup, we've seen the Reds beat the Yankees this year. That lineup doesn't scare me with this Reds pitching. I respect it. There's a lot of the Phillies. The Reds have had some very good series this year. Their pitching was great against the Phillies, great against the Yankees, very good against the Dodgers. They have the most important piece, and that's that. What up, Dennis? Dennis jumping in here saying the Reds have the starting pitching to compete. The question is, can their offense show up? I'm just happy we finally get postseason baseball. Go Reds. No doubt about it. Finally, instead of talking about these deficiencies, and man, they have great pitching. If they could just go get a couple bats in the offseason, we get to push that talk off a little bit. Hopefully the bats that are in this lineup are enough to make some noise and pull off the upset against the Dodgers. Ann Anderson, how are you, Ann? Ann says, when I look at the Reds lineup, I see all the players that were here in Dayton. The farm system is alive and well. Let's go Red Legs. Beat them ugly Dodgers on their own turf. You know what's funny is so many people beat up on Nick Krall in this Reds organization. And we get mad because they don't go get talent. Guys, like, this is homegrown talent. They're doing this with a lot of homegrown guys. Yes, they've gone out in free agency and some trades and made some moves. But this rotation is pretty much, I mean, you used, obviously, Jonathan India to go get Brady Singer. But like I said, the rotation moving forward, a lot of this, I mean, when they get Rhett Lauder back, you're going to have Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo, all right? You're going to have Andrew Abbott, Rhett Lauder, all right, Chase Burns. There's some names still in the system coming up, like, this is a homegrown pitching staff. You look at Matt McClain has to figure this out, right? If he's going to be a long-term guy for this Reds team, Matt McClain, a Spencer Steer, right? A Sal Stewart, an Ellie De La Cruz. Like, that's what makes this team so fun, is you can go out and buy every player out there, yes. And winning is fun. Making the playoffs is fun. But there's something about when you have success with guys that you drafted, that you developed, that you called up through the system, we almost feel like we're a part of their journey. We got to watch some of these, if not most of these guys in Dayton. And now we get to watch them tomorrow night. Wild card round of the playoffs going up against the Dodgers. And that's a great point. We saw the majority of these guys. Think about how many of these guys we got the chance to see put on that Dragons uniform. So that's a great point, Ann. Thank you for listening, by the way. We do have the Hall of Famer Hal McCoy coming up here around the corner. We do have time to go, though, to take a couple calls. Let's go to Shaw. Shaw, thanks for holding.
How you doing, bud?
Good. Another day in paradise. Happy Monday.
Yeah, happy playoff Monday. You want to take your chances, especially with Hunter on the mound. And I just looked here. I haven't seen anything announced for Game 2 yet by either team. But I got to stick with it. I've been consistent all throughout the year, and I'm going to be consistent right here, right now. I understand Hunter's on the mound, but I can't get past the lack of offense. And to answer your question that you asked right before you went on break, which would you rather have? For sure, I'd much rather have the pitching than the hitting. But you're going to have to get some runs somewhere. And that's why I think the emphasis is on Tito. And I'm not one of those Tito bashing guys that think that everything he does is reason to get him fired or they should kick him out, whatever, yada, yada, yada. I think he's, like you said, he's making the dinner with some crappy ingredients. So, but I think moving forward, I think the whole lefty-righty thing's got to go out the window. I think your best players have got to play every single – I think they just got to play every single day. Benson needs to be in this lineup every day. Stevenson needs to be catching every single day, so on and so forth. I quite honestly, to me, Stevens, Sal needs to be in the lineup every single day. And if that means you got to work out something with the second baseman, McClain, then that's what we got to do. He's been too far inconsistent, even borderline to the part of just being poor, just to be nicely, this entire season. You got to go with the hot hands, and I need guys that can, on one swing of the bat, change this game to basically go back to what I was talking about earlier. If we get the boppers in there and Hunter Green pitches the way he should pitch tomorrow night, then okay, you can change some things. You win that game tomorrow night, you put all the onus and all the pressures on the Dodgers at that point, and I'll take my chances with Abbott at that point versus their number 2 or number 3, because I really don't think they'll throw Shohei game 2. I really don't think so.
It sounds like, except for what I've heard today, just across multiple sports platforms, this is the respect or non-respect or whatever, overlooking the Reds. They're pushing Shohei back so they could have him for game 1 of the next series. So when you have the luxury of a Blake Snell and all those other great pitchers they have, they could be very selective. Like the Reds have to throw Hunter Green in game 1. The Dodgers don't have to throw out their main guy in game 1. That's kind of where we're at with that. But yeah, it doesn't sound like the Reds may not have to see Shohei in this series from a pitching standpoint, at least. They were good. I mean, I think I had it in my notes here. He was 3 for 25 against the Reds this season. So it's not, you have to respect him. No doubt about it. But it's just one of those things where the Reds kept him in check with their pitching. Luckily, they don't have to see his arm potentially this series.
I completely agree. And obviously, he's going to make an adjustment to the way the Reds pitched him in the regular season. So the Reds just need to continue. Main thing is throw strikes. Don't overthink it. Don't get too much caught up into the analytics and worrying about where their hot zones are and stuff like that. These guys have pitched. I mean, we played 162. And at this point, it doesn't matter if you backed in. It doesn't matter if the Mets collapsed or what. It doesn't matter. You're in. You're in, and we start play tomorrow night, and it's a whole new season. And at this point in time, anything can happen. Being a fan of another team, I've been on the end of where you're the favorite and we've lost. I've been on the other end where you've made a run and then it's heartbreaking because you lost. But once you're in, you're in. And that's all you can ask for as a Reds fan. And at this point, just get 2 wins so I can stop coming on here in the off season and saying we haven't won a playoff series since 1995. For that purpose alone, to shut me up, please.
I'm always looking for reasons to shut you up. Like this one. No, I'm only dropping you because we got a guest coming up, Shaw. Shaw, appreciate you as always. Thank you for calling. But I know you probably had more. We're just up against it, and I got to get to Hamakoy coming up here around the corner. Like there's so many more layers to this series with the Dodgers. Like what I'm fascinated about is imagine if David Bell was the manager of this team. I would be terrified of the over-managing. The one reason why another reason I feel very comfortable about this series, and what I mean by comfortable is, Kinner said they're going to win. No, I think they have what it takes to win. I'm not going to be surprised if they win. I'm also not going to be surprised if this game is done in 2 and the Reds get swept. Like there's so many layers to this. I don't think that David Bell, or I don't think that Terry Francona is going to overthink this. If David Bell was the manager, I'd be very concerned. But I like the Reds have one of the best manager in baseball, one of the best pitching staffs in baseball, and opportunistic hitters, if I'm being nice, okay? Like this team the Reds are a scary team to face in the wild card round. They really are because they got nothing to lose. There's no pressure. If they get beaten 2, big whoop. Weren't supposed to be here anyways, right? But you win game 1 with Hunter Green on the mound, there's panic that sets in. I don't care how many dollars have been spent on that roster. I don't care how many superstars are there. I don't care how many games they've won, World Series, any of that stuff. There's a ton riding on game 1 tomorrow. And I think that the Reds have what it takes to put the pressure back on them nonetheless. All right, good stuff. The Hall of Famer, Hal McCoy, he's going to join us when we come back. It's the Justin Kinner Show, 1410 ESPN Radio.
And Dayton, 1410 Wing AM.
All right, and we are back. It's the Justin Kinner Show, presented by Frickers. The Justin Kinner Show, presented by Frickers. Frickers, your home for fun, food, sports, and spirits. Wow, hour one already in the books. We already turn our attention towards hour number two. Like I said, I've been doing this for 10 years now, and I have never once had to, when planning a show, oh man, I got to figure out a way to squeeze Reds talk in at the end of September that doesn't involve a managerial change or us complaining about the Reds missing the postseason, right? First time in 10 years I get to talk about the Reds in the playoffs, and it's definitely something different for sure. But the Reds found a way to get in. Too many people trying to be negative, saying, well, they backdoored their way in. It doesn't matter. The Mets going on a free fall, it's not like the Reds were the only team that had the chance to take advantage of that. Yes, the Mets went on a free fall, but the Diamondbacks, they weren't good enough to take advantage of that. And they were close. The Cardinals weren't. They were close, right? Like you keep going down that list, the Cardinals, the Diamondbacks, the Giants, there was a lot of teams that were right there, just like the Reds, to capitalize and pounce on that opportunity when the Mets continued to free fall. Only one team was good enough to do it, and that was the Cincinnati Reds. Reds and Dodgers, game one of the wild card round begins tomorrow night. And for those watching on the stream, of course, there's the schedule, of course, and we'll have it for you right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. Game one tomorrow night, 9:08 the first pitch, 8:38 pregame coverage will begin right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. Game two on Wednesday night. And if it comes to it, game three coming up on Thursday. All games you could watch on ESPN or listen to right here on 1410 ESPN Radio, of course. But to continue on, we'll get into the Browns. We'll get into the Bengals, who are on Monday Night Football tonight. The Buckeyes get a big win over Washington over the weekend. We'll get to all of that coming up, but I want to continue talking Reds with the one, the only, the Hall of Famer, Hal McCoy. Hal, I've known you for a long time. I've interviewed you many, many times. I don't think I've ever been able to interview you, though, talking about a playoff Reds team. How are we today?
We're great. Fantastic. And you're absolutely right. What a change, huh? Chance to talk about going to the playoffs instead of what's going to happen next year, who's going to be the manager next year, or what are the team going to do next year. We got the playoffs to look forward to.
And now that we are here, let me ask you, because, and I have no problem admitting I've quit on this team many, many times. I don't know how many times I've cracked this mic and said, and I'm sure you've done it in your columns and others, like, all right, I think the season's done. It was a fun run. They kept us locked in deeper into the season than usual. But at what point in the last month, Hal, did you start, or did you start buying in, like, oh, this team actually can do this? Or really was it taking you into the middle of yesterday afternoon before you started to believe it?
Well, first of all, way back before the season started, in my preseason column, I predicted that they would win 83 games or 84 games. 83. They won 84. So I was close there. But during the course of the season, I wrote them off at least 4 times. Probably, I know I did after they lost 4 straight to the A's in Sacramento. And then they finished the series with St. Louis. They were 74-75, and I wrote them off again. I said, they're done. But then they went on this streak, and I didn't believe them. Going to Milwaukee. They were playing well. They beat the Cubs 4 straight, but I still wasn't convinced. I knew how they played in Milwaukee and what Milwaukee had done to them. So I figured they'd go to Milwaukee and either get swept or lose 2 out of 3 and lose it. But give them credit. They won 4 straight from the Cubs and 2 out of 3 from Milwaukee. They did not back in. They won it, even though they lost the last game of the season. Still, they won it themselves.
I mean, especially when you look at the fact that they had to, like you mentioned, the Cubs, to go to Milwaukee, who have owned them for not just this season, but for many, many years now. They had to do a lot of stuff down the stretch. Now, they lit their house on fire, and then they wanted credit for putting it out. But, hey, they made it difficult, but it doesn't matter. They got there. I opened up the segment, Hal, talking about that. A lot of people were bringing up the fact that, oh, they only got in because the Mets free falled. But there was a lot of other teams right there in the mix as well, and only the Reds were able to make it between them and the Mets down the stretch. They have a lot of deficiencies, just like the Cardinals and the Giants and the Diamondbacks and others who are right there fighting for it. But the one thing that they had that nobody else had is that strength, which is their pitching. They have that heading into this series with the Dodgers, and I know that the Dodgers are the heavy favorite. We've spent a lot of time talking about that today, but do the Reds have enough to pull off an upset? Do they have enough pieces, do you think, that they could stun the baseball world and knock out the Dodgers in the wild card round?
Absolutely. There is no real powerhouse in baseball. Nobody won 100 games this year. Everything is up in the air. Now you have a short series. The Reds have Hunter Green, Andrew Abbott, and Nick Lodolo waiting. That's three pretty strong pitchers to throw out there against the Dodgers. So I'm on record as saying they're going to win. I think they're going to beat the Dodgers.
You look at the history and the success that Terry Francona has had in the postseason. I mean, he wins literally everywhere he goes. The one thing I always think about when a team makes the playoffs for the first time in a while is the fear of a manager without a lot of success over managing. The Reds don't have that. They have an experienced captain leading the way, obviously, in Terry Francona. What kind of edge does that give the Reds, a team that's new to the playoff picture right now, but not so new when it comes to the guy that's leading them there? How much of an edge does he give them going up against an experienced team like the Dodgers?
Definitely. Once again, before the season, I wrote that Tito Francona would probably make a difference in 5 to 7 games this year. And I think he did, probably more than that. He's a calming, steadying influence. He lets them have fun. He's got a great personality. They all love him. And he's a great strategist, a great manager. But most of all, it is how he handles his players. And he would be the very calming influence. His mantra is one game at a time, this game and this game only. And that's what he'll emphasize going into Tuesday's game. Let's win this game. Wednesday and Thursday will take care of themselves. And the team has bought into this, and that's why I like them to do well in the playoffs. I don't think any team in baseball wants to play the Reds right now.
No, not with that pitching. No doubt. How
Right.
it's funny. We hear how regionalized baseball could be at times, and I've seen a lot of complaining on social media that when the Reds, man, they made the playoffs. Where can I go get my tickets? A lot of people are realizing for the first time exactly what the format is. The Reds don't get a home playoff game in the first round. For them to get a home playoff game, we would have to see them beat the Dodgers in this wild card round, of course. What's your thoughts on the format? I know they've tinkered with this. I mean, it used to you play 162 games for a one-game wild card, which was just wild to me. What do you think of the format now where all 3 games, if it does go to 3, all the games will be played in Los Angeles for the wild card round?
Yeah, I have no problem with that because, the Reds had to win the 3rd wild card spot, and, the Dodgers up there at the top. I have no problem. I think that the reward is getting in. They shouldn't be rewarded with a home game in a 3-game series by winning the 3rd wild card spot, while the Dodgers had a much better record. So I have no problem with that. If it was a 5-game series, then that would be something different. But 3-game series, I have no problem with that.
Hall of Famer Hal McCoy with us here, the Justin Kinner Show, presented by Frickers. Frickers, your home for fun, food, sports, and spirits. Reds Dodgers game 1 coming up tomorrow night. We'll have it for you right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. 9:08 the first pitch. We'll have that for you right here. Hal, this is funny. I'm not trying to be negative because the Reds just made the playoffs, but it is funny. People beat up on the front office of this Reds team so much, but this is a very fun story about the Reds. When you look at it, and a listener, a shout out to Ann Anderson, she's in the comments right now. She just chimed in a little bit ago saying how cool it is that the majority of this roster, she got a chance to watch play, at Dayton. It's similar to the 2010s team too, where a lot of those guys we got a chance to see come up through the system. How cool of a story is that? It's one thing to have a team like the Mets and others who spend so much money to piece together their roster. Then you look at the Reds, who frustratingly at times, they don't like to add a lot of outside pieces, but they've pieced together and built a playoff roster now. You could officially say that. How cool of a story is the Reds? When you look up and down this roster, these are Reds guys that they've traded for, that they've developed, brought up through the system, and we've even had a chance to see the majority of these guys play in Dayton.
Yeah, it's very cool that, they've got a nice blend. They have the young players that they brought up through the system, but they also at the trade deadline, they added Brady Singer and they added Andujar. So they have added some pieces to help them get where they are. But the majority of the players are homegrown, done with $119 million payroll, as opposed to the Cubs at $340 million. That's a cool story. It really is.
Elly De La Cruz is going to be a huge opportunity. I mean, we know the superstar player that he is. He comes with his faults, obviously, a lot of deficiencies playing it short, but now the lights are going to be as bright as they've ever been for him in his Reds career. How big of a series is this for Elly De La Cruz, and how much of an impact will this series have on the direction the Reds go with deciding whether to keep him at short or change positions? Do you think this series could potentially impact how they view him moving forward as far as what position he plays?
No, I don't think that'll have much to do with it, but he could have a big impact on this series, no doubt about it. He's finally looks as if he's found his home run stroke again.
Yep.
And as you'll recall, a couple of years ago, he said, "LA is my town." Well, now he gets to go in and try to prove it. But, you and I have talked about this many times. I still think he belongs in the outfield, in center field. 26 errors, leads the major leagues at shortstop, makes spectacular plays, botches the routine plays. And I just think he'd be a lot of better in center field, chasing down balls in the gaps, and has the strong arm, which he overuses at shortstop, and makes bad throws, hesitates as if he wants to show off that arm, and then tries to gun it over there, and too often throws wildly. But the Reds don't listen to us, but I think he belongs in the outfield, and I don't know. They've got a great young shortstop, but he was at Double-A last year, that Edwin Arroyo, that's probably ready. But it'll be interesting to see what they do with him.
Last thing on the way out, Hal, whether it's a Matt McClain, a Sal Stewart, obviously the list goes on and on with these young guys. This is a young roster still. That's a lot of these guys are playing on the biggest stage they've ever played in, which obviously Elly's most important when it comes to with the bat being in his hand. Who's the second most important player that you think has to have a big, not just game, but series, in a shortened series against the Dodgers?
Well, a couple of players, probably. I would say Spencer Steer. They need him to do some hitting, and I would like to see Ke'Bryan Hayes come out of his funk. Bang lower in the order right now. Even though the Reds are in the playoffs, they have not been hitting. It's been all pitching. It's against the Dodgers. I think the Dodgers are averaging 5 runs a game, and I'm afraid that they're going to do some scoring. So the Reds are going to need to get some offense and quit leaving runners in scoring position, which is what they've done all year, and that's been their Achilles heel, leaving runners on base. But if Ke'Bryan Hayes, he's a great, he's a platinum glove third baseman. He's even better than I thought he was after seeing him play here with the Reds. But he's been kind of in a rut with the bat, and it would be great to see him come around.
How my ADD got the best of me earlier. I started to ask a question, forgot it midway, and then veered somewhere else. So I'll end it with this one. You bring up Ke'Bryan Hayes. It was one of the biggest names that they got at the deadline. A lot of underwhelming, sexy names, but impact guys is what they went and got. And we've seen so many good moves that the front office has made. I know it's the popular thing to beat up on the Reds front office, but how much credit do they deserve? I mean, a lot of the moves that a lot of fans poo-pooed ended up being some of the bigger moves that have helped propel them to this point. How much credit do you think this front office should get for building this now playoff roster?
I've been one of their biggest critics all along, and I have to bow down to them. They've gotten into the playoffs. They went out at the trade deadline, and as you said, they didn't get any marquee players, but they brought in some pieces that they needed and fit them in the right places. So I give them a whole lot of credit. I have to back down because I've been on their case for several years.
Well, that could either be a good or a bad thing, Hal, because they could say, oh, man, we got there with this. Let's add to it. Or they could say, see, we don't need to add a whole lot. Like, it could be a good or a bad thing. We'll see moving forward. But let's get through this series first.
Exactly right.
All right, good stuff. The Hall of Famer, Hal McCoy, awesome enough to give us some time. Hal, I know you're busy. Thank you so much as always, and hopefully we'll talk soon.
Anytime, Justin. Thank you for having me.
All right, good stuff. The Reds in the playoffs, Reds-Dodgers, game 1 tomorrow. Appreciate the Hall of Famer, Hal McCoy, for giving us his perspective. We'll recap some of our conversation with Hal when we come back, and then we'll also switch gears to the Bengals, who are in Monday night football action coming up later on tonight in Denver. We'll get to all of that when we come back. It's the Justin Kinner Show, presented by Frickers. Frickers, your home for fun food, sports, and spirits.
$1,000 sign-on bonus. Apply right now. Online at CordellTransportation.com. Do it right now. Driven to succeed.
Big thank you to the Hall of Famer, Hal McCoy, for giving us some time to talk, of course, about tomorrow night's, playoff baseball for the Reds. Kind of weird. And kind of selfish of the Reds. I mean, they've really hogged all the time today. We should be talking about the Bengals and Monday Night Football, which we will get to. Big opportunity for Cincinnati tonight. When you look at the fact that the Ravens have struggled the way that they have, the Steelers look solid to start, but how much of their success is sustainable? And then there's, my team, the Cleveland Browns. Woof, painful. This is a huge opportunity tonight, and we'll talk more about that coming up in a moment. But I want to close the door on the Reds talk here, and we'll be more Reds heavy tomorrow as well. Obviously, heading into that wild card round, a game with the Dodgers. But I do want to give a shout out to Milwaukee. I don't know if you guys saw this yesterday. So the Reds, obviously, they lose the regular season finale against them. They do win the series, but that's a division rival, and I thought it was really neat. So I was talking with someone that was actually there in the clubhouse earlier today. I don't know if I'm allowed to say his name or not, but the bottom line is he was sharing that they were all celebrating in the clubhouse, and that the Brewers organization had sent someone down to say, hey, you guys don't need to be crammed in here celebrating. Why don't you guys get out on the field? And they kind of invited them out on the field. They put their playoff, congratulations, clinched a picture up on the big screen out on the field. I just thought that was kind of cool. So many times in the heat of, with the competitive environment, it's a division rival. They could have tried to keep them crammed in that clubhouse. Don't take your celebration out on our field, whatever. I just thought that was very well done. So kudos to the Brewers. I'm a negative person a lot, so I like to show that, I can be nice. So shout out to the Brewers. I thought that was well done on their end to let the Reds go out there and celebrate the way that they did. I don't mean this in a bad way, but I really do want to get to the point. Maybe this is that negativity coming out now. Again, I want to get to the point to where you celebrate making the postseason, but it doesn't look like I just watched a mid-major win their conference tournament. I was, you know what I mean? And I love mid-major basketball. I call games for a mid-major team, but there's nothing cooler than watching a mid-major team. But I want the Reds to finally get to the point where we don't view them as a mid-major, oh man, can they go on a Cinderella run and go knock off Duke? Because that's what this feels like. It feels like the way we talk about the Reds, can they get it done? Do they have enough three-point shooting? Do they have enough size in the paint? Could they get hot? What about the head coach? What about the experience there? You know what I mean? Doesn't it seem so obviously I call games for, and work with Wright State, fill in from time to time, helping them whenever they need it, however they need it. But when Wright State or any mid-major team punches their ticket to the NCAA tournament, it is the coolest thing ever. But that's the window that they live in. They are a mid-major team. So that's how we frame it. The Reds are a Major League Baseball team. And yesterday, I just felt like we were watching a mid-major basketball team who just punched their ticket to the NCAA tournament. Not saying that's a bad thing. You could hear this how you want. All I'm saying is I just want it to where when the Reds they could celebrate punching their ticket to the postseason, but no longer oh my gosh, I can't believe we did it. We expect to do it. The Brewers, they won that regular season finale yesterday. They walked off the field. All right, where do we go next? It's time for the postseason, right? I want the Reds to get to that level. And you can't get there without getting there the first time. And this is the first real time the Reds have made the playoffs in well over a decade. I know you guys, some of you count 20. I don't. I don't think I'm being too irrational with that. Come on, 2020, what a horrible year. And it's just one of those things where I don't look at anything that happened in 2020 as a good thing. So I block it out. To me, the Reds didn't make the playoffs that year. So it is what it is. But as we sit here right now, the Reds are in the postseason. It was a cool celebration yesterday to see the champagne celebration. Obviously, they popped the bottles. And I thought, you heard, it was kind of funny. I was listening to Terry Francona during his interview. I was, for him to say, hey, we're going to go, and you hear coaches say a lot. You hear coaches say this a lot in all sports. Hey, we're going to go enjoy this one tonight and tomorrow get back to work. Terry Francona said, we're going to enjoy this for an hour and then focus on what's the task at, hand coming up. And that's already that just experience of him coming into play. Let's have fun this hour. Let's try to down as many champagne bottles as possible. Let's take as many pictures and have as much fun as possible for this hour. But then we got to get to work. And I think that's where, a lot of key stuff is about to come into play with who's leading this organization right now, and that's Terry Francona. I had a chance to listen to Marty Brenneman. He was on with Tom Brenneman. Tom's doing mornings on 700 over in Cincinnati. You can, so he had Marty on. Marty brought up a good point too. Like, for those of you out there that are acting like this organization's not going anywhere in the right direction, I kept saying, why would Terry Francona come out of retirement to go to Cincinnati? I understand why Cincinnati wants Terry Francona. Why would Terry Francona want Cincinnati? There was one organization that was in the playoffs last year that told Terry Francona they would move on from their current manager to get him. And there was another team that had a lot of young, really good up-and-coming pieces that was a winning organization last year that wanted him, and he turned them down. He picked the Reds over one team that was already in the playoffs, one team that has as bright a future as the Reds when it comes to young talent. There was something about Cincinnati that got his attention. Whether it was something that was told to him in the interview process by Brad Mader, the general manager, and, of course, Nick Kroll, whatever it was, Terry Francona came here for a reason. And I stated this in the opening segment. I hope this is the worst roster that Terry Francona manages moving forward. My concern is, and, I said I won't bring up 2020 because it was such a horrible year, but if you think back to COVID, right? A lot of businesses shut down, or a lot of businesses downsized. A lot of businesses would tell you, hey, you're going to absorb so-and-so's responsibilities just for a little bit of time until we get back on our feet, and then we'll take those responsibilities away and hire someone full-time, and, you won't be doing as much. Okay, cool. But then what happens is because, by the way, they think that we got to hurry up and get someone back in here to start taking on those responsibilities because we got to get back to being an efficient company. But then what happened is because really good people were in good spots, those people end up taking on a lot of other people's responsibilities for no additional pay, end up doing such a good job that now these, businesses are like, wait, we don't really need to spend money to have those jobs done. We already got those jobs done for free because all the poor saps that actually were dumb enough to take our word for it. Right? So what ends up happening is when you do more with less, you end up bailing out the front office. You bail out your ownership. And then your ownership is like, wait, I don't need to hire somebody to take some of those responsibilities off your hands. You're already doing it, and you're doing it well. Sure, you're stressed as can be. Sure, you want to rip your hair out, but who cares because I'm making money and I don't care about you. That's 99% of business owners, whether it's radio or anyone else, right? That's just how it is. And that's what I'm fascinated to learn about the Reds moving forward. Okay? Maybe this should be a conversation as we head into the offseason. Luckily, we don't have to do that for a while. But what I'm fascinated about is, what does this playoff appearance mean for the direction of the franchise? I touched on it lightly as we closed out the conversation with Hal McCoy. But I said, does the fact that this team, the fact that they clinched a postseason berth, does that give more motivation to the front office to say, man, they made it with all these deficiencies. Let's go get them a superstar player here to complement Ellie De La Cruz, to complement, Andujar and some of the young the talent they got at the trade deadline. Talent, I love the Brian Hayes deal. Are they going to look at the fact that they made the postseason with this group and say, we made the postseason with this group with all these flaws. Imagine what we can do if we fix some of these flaws and get better moving forward. Or are they going to say, see, we don't have to spend a lot of money. See, we don't have to go get the biggest names in free agency. We don't even have to go, into the deep end to address the deficiencies on this team. We have Terry Francona. We have a very good pitching staff. We just got to rely on them to win us enough games to keep us interesting enough to get asses in seats into September. We're going to learn a lot about this Reds franchise moving forward. We're going to learn a lot about what is their number one desire. Is it to win? Are they a competitive driven organization? Are they going to see how close they got this year and say, man, we got to get back here? In fact, not only do we got to get back here, we got to pass this level. We got to get into the next round of the playoffs. We got to get into the World Series. Are they going to have that competitive drive now that they've realized how close they are? Or are they going to be complacent because, all right, well, we didn't really invest into anything really, and look at where we ended up. In Terry, we trust. This season, this playoff berth could either be a really, really good thing for the Reds or a really, really bad thing. And shame on me for bringing that up on a day that we should just be talking about the Reds Dodgers, but it just got me thinking. That's all. I want to believe that this organization is so competitively driven that they're going to be so pissed when the Dodgers knock them out this week. Hopefully they don't. But you would like to think that if and when the Dodgers knock the Reds out this week, that front office is just drooling at the opportunity to hit the offseason to get the Reds not just back here, but past here. We're going to learn about that organization. Do they want to get past this spot, or are they content with just getting here? Because, hey, we didn't have to spend a lot to get here. We didn't have to invest a lot to get here. We didn't have to give up prospects. I'm sorry. We didn't have to give up any of that. We're going to learn a lot about this organization moving forward. And we're going to learn a lot about this organization and team tomorrow. Elly De La Cruz, right? Like Sal Stewart, Hunter Green. I mean, the Nick Martinez move, which a lot of us questioned, $22.5 million. I think the fact that, yeah, you could focus on the money he got, but having a weapon like that to come out of the bullpen. We just saw Nick Lodolo come out of the bullpen yesterday, so he's probably not going to start game 2, which I think is more than fine. I actually would not have liked Nick Lodolo pitching game 2. I love Nick Lodolo, but I love Andrew Abbott. Andrew Abbott, to me, is the best, has been the best pitcher in this rotation. Hunter Green's viewed as that guy, but when you look at this season and this season alone, the most consistent best pitcher that the Reds have had this season has been Andrew Abbott. So I love that Hunter Green's on the mound for game 1. Obsessed with the fact that Andrew Abbott's on the mound for game 2. We're going to get to the Bengals in a moment, but let's go to Dickie. Dickie, how are you, buddy?
Okay, well, you mentioned a couple weeks ago, but something that I think that was my cousin called me. She's a big inning. They were 15 games, the Guardians, going into the break there. They were 15 games behind Detroit. Then they made a comeback, didn't they? The Guardians, right?
They won quite a few games down there. Like the Guardians did it differently than the Reds. The Reds lost a lot of games while still remaining in the hunt and ultimately falling into that final spot. The Guardians had to, while the Tigers, so the Tigers were to the Guardians what the Mets were to the Reds, but the difference was the Guardians were starting to free fall, or the Tigers were starting to free fall while the Guardians were just winning a ton of games and climbing up the ranks and jumping back into it. I should have asked this to Hal, and my apologies, Guardians fans, about that, but I should have talked about this with Hal McCoy too. The Guardians and Reds are two of the biggest stories in all of baseball right now with the way both teams made the postseason, both Ohio teams. It's cool to see both teams from Ohio in the postseason at the same time.
I did. They had him at he came over to Sinclair.
Who?
Hal McCoy. I liked him, and I don't know if he said, "Thank you, Dick, for all your support." Nice guy.
Everyone loves Dick from Dayton.
Yeah, he was good. And I want to ask you something, okay? We got two teams. Now, you tell me it's unlikely for the Bengals to win tonight, isn't it? Don't you think?
I don't know about unlikely. Look, the Broncos have struggled. We know what Browning is capable of. The problem is that's the problem, though. We know that he is capable of having big games and getting Jamar Chase and some of these guys involved. But then we also know he's capable of just being an interception machine. I think tonight's a big night, Dickie, because the Ravens are 1-3. The Browns aren't. The Browns are the Browns. The Steelers, they're off to a good start. But remember, this is a team that was 4-1, 4-2 last year, and we saw how dicey things got the remainder of the season. I think that the Bengals tonight is a good opportunity to remind people why they still have a shot to contend for that division and contend for the playoffs in the absence of Joe Burrow. But I think it all comes down to this game, as crazy as that sounds.
Now, do you think they need a different coach? Do you think with all this misery, and I think with all they drafted, and Flacco hasn't proved anything. Why do you make a mistake, you keep putting him in, and they just look downright pathetic, didn't they?
They do. Joe Flacco's not great, don't get me wrong, but I don't think he's necessarily the problem. I mean, some of those throws he made yesterday were beautiful throws up the sideline that were right in the fingertips of some of these receivers. They're just not catching them. You have undrafted wide receiver that's out there making some plays, but he's getting a lot of targets. Jerry Jeudy, it was a 1,000-yard receiver last year. He's been a non-factor. Tillman got hurt yesterday. He was showing major strides to start the season. He's regressed. They have no pass catchers. Harold, when you go look at the target list for the Cleveland Browns, the running backs are getting a lot of looks and the tight ends are getting a lot of looks, and that's not a bad recipe if you have complementary wide receivers to kind of egg it on. They don't have anyone to catch the ball. This is a limited offense, and everyone that is screaming that Dylan Gabriel needs to get out there, I agree to a certain point,
Yeah.
But I don't think, unless Dylan Gabriel all of a sudden throws a better ball that's going to make it more catchable. I don't really know. I don't know. I just don't think that the quarterback's necessarily the problem. The problem is he's not the solution.
Yeah.
Joe Flacco's not the solution, and I don't think the solution's on the roster.
You like Andre Siciliano on the Browns games?
Yes, he just started with them last year, right? Like, you think he used to be with CBS or whatever, but yeah.
No, he was with Fox. You know what, though?
Or Fox, yeah.
Don't you miss Jimmy Donovan?
Oh, no, especially just when you listen to those games, and it just sounds different, obviously. But absolutely.
I used to call the End Zone show up there. They looked forward to it, didn't they?
Yep, they would always ask about you. But, Dickie, you got anything else? We're almost out of time.
No, I just wanted to say, have you heard from McKinney?
Actually, I have not. I've not heard from him in a minute.
I miss him, I kind of miss him.
The SEC commissioner.
Tom Hamilton?
What?
Tom Hamilton?
Yeah.
Have you ever talked to him?
Yeah.
Does he ever ask about me?
Every time. But, hey, Dickie, we're out of time, buddy.
Okay, I'll talk to you later.
Sounds good. Appreciate you as always. All right, it's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers. Frickers, your home for fun, food, sports, and spirits. So step away for a few moments. We'll talk about the other team in Cincinnati, the Bengals. Big one on Monday Night Football coming up here tonight. When you look at the state of the AFC North right now, when you look at the condition of it, I know it's tough times right now for the Bengals without Joe Burrow, but right now there's an opportunity that this team could take advantage of, and it starts tonight. We'll talk about the significance of this Monday Night Football game with Denver. Plus, Bengals fans, have you tapped out? Are you tapped out after what you saw last week and with Joe Burrow being probably out for the rest of the season? Have you officially tapped out on this Bengals team? I am curious. I don't feel any buzz, any excitement whatsoever about this Monday Night Football game tonight, and I think there's a lot on the line, and we'll discuss when we come back. It's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers. Frickers, your home for fun, food, sports, and spirits.
This statement is not evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. When it comes
Now, back to the Justin Kinner Show, right here on ESPN Dayton, 1410 Wing AM.
Monday Night Football coming up later on this evening. The Cincinnati Bengals on the road taking on the Denver Broncos. Our friends over at ESPN Bet have the Denver Broncos as a 7.5-point favorite at home. The Bengals 2-1, started the season 2-0. Ugly win over the Browns. I still, to this day, right now, they should not have won that game, but woulda, coulda, shoulda, who cares, right? The Bengals did win that game, and as you know, the difference is in years past, the Bengals lose those types of games, but they started out the season 2-0. They get that very dramatic win against the Jaguars, who, of course, they had to win without Joe Burrow for the majority of it. Jake Browning comes in to replace Joe Burrow, and not just to replace him for the remainder of that Jaguars game, but to basically replace Joe Burrow for the remainder of the season. I look at this matchup tonight, and you look at kind of what's going on around the AFC North and around football in general. So the Steelers come out on top over the Vikings in an ugly game, right? They give up 15 points in the fourth quarter, but it doesn't matter because in the NFL, it's not like college football. Style points don't matter. The Bengals win in week 1 over the Browns is just as strong as the Steelers win over the Vikings just yesterday. So a win is a win. And the Steelers won, and they're 3-1. Right. And you look at the Steelers start to the season. You look at what they have coming up. The Steelers have the Browns coming up. That they'll be, obviously have a bye week coming up, but they have the Browns and then the Bengals. And of course, this guy comes walking in. Oh, you got to get an invite. You got to hold on. What's going on? Hold up. Let me see. Make sure we have the right mic for this one. What's going on?
What's popping? What's good? No headphones.
You don't get to be excited about your Steelers because Aaron Rodgers sucks, right? He was supposed to be a bum. Old geriatric. You don't get to wait on a goodbye all day. There ain't nothing to be good mood about in this damn building.
Look. I'll be cliche. It's early in the season. Currently, my beloved Pittsburgh Steelers are leading the division, but nothing truly matters until the end of the season. I saw this year after year after year. I mean, we were looking good last year and then lose, like 5-6 straight games to end the season, barely make it to the playoffs, back into the playoffs, as some people would say. So
Cincinnati way,
it's funny now. It's all funny games right now, but it's a long season, and people look at the Cleveland Browns, they look at the Cincinnati Bengals with their injuries, they look at the rough start that the Ravens are off to, tons of guys on their defense hurt, guys on the Pittsburgh Steelers defense are hurt. But the fact of the matter is, it's a long season, and I never do this. Kenner, you can vouch for me. I don't do this whole, I hope they lose. I worry about my team. I worry about what we can control. But since the Ravens are stinking right now and the Browns offense is dumpster trash, I kind of have to root for the Cincinnati Bengals to lose, because guess what? The Steelers are 3-1, and it puts a smile on my face.
You brought up the Browns. That's disrespectful to dumpster trash. What that offense has been thus far. No, that's what. So we're talking about the Bengals Monday Night Football game tonight. I'm looking at the AFC North. I don't think their record is bad. I don't think they have a lot more problems than we thought. I don't think they're 1-3 bad, but they're 1-3.
Yeah,
you are what your record says you are, and you're 3-1. But we saw the Steelers start out 4-2 last. It was saying basically what you're saying. First of all, I'd much rather have the start that the Steelers have than what the Browns have. That's, for sure. And I think the Ravens would love to have your start no matter what either. But the Bengals have to capitalize on this opportunity tonight. Jake Browning, we know he could be a very, very good backup quarterback and maximize the opportunity. He has a winning record with the Cincinnati Bengals. But we also know he could be very self-destructive and turn the ball over a lot and look the way he did last week. Last week, though, the way the Bengals lost last week was very close to looking like a team that quit on their coach in that game. I don't think that's the case. They've never quit on Zach Taylor in the past, but if you see them go down tonight to Denver, they're 7.5-point dog. If they get their doors blown off tonight, now you have to seriously consider if Zach Taylor has lost the room and if this team can compete moving forward. But if they go out there in a tough environment at Denver, they're 7.5-point dogs, and Jake Browning leads them to a win tonight. Now it's not about can we keep our head afloat till Joe Burrow gets back. I think they compete in this division moving forward. It just depends what Jake Browning shows up. They still have talent on that roster, even with all the deficiencies. But we can't sit here and say, well, they don't have a shot because their defense is bad.
Right.
You've seen Pittsburgh's defense?
Right.
Better the last couple of weeks. Have you seen the Ravens' defense?
Woo!
And hell, Cleveland has a defense. Look where the hell they're at. So let's just be clear. It's a big game for the Bengals tonight.
Yeah, man. Speaking about that, I mean, the Cleveland Browns defense has been absolutely outstanding. The Steelers defense has not been good. numbers wise, but like they're getting
Situational.
splash plays, they're getting turnovers and stuff like that. So I'm hopeful like that'll start translating into more like stops as opposed to like, oh, we getting takeaways. Takeaways are awesome. You would love to take the ball away, but like, hey man, I would just stop somebody on 3rd and 1. I would love to see that. And just from a fan perspective, I'm hopeful that not only do the Bengals lose tonight, but I'm also hopeful that the Jets blow out the Dolphins
tonight.
tonight.
Want the Bengals to lose?
Yeah. I'm gonna be a hater.
I thought you said earlier you were
No. I'm not. I'm not. I can't. So like I said, like normally I don't do that whole root against the teams thing, but like, hey man, look, the Steelers are not good. Like, don't let the record fool you. They're not good. We're not good right now. Right now. So we need as big as a lead as humanly possible to backdoor our way into the playoffs. And also, I'm desperately hoping that the Miami Dolphins lose tonight to go to 0-4 so they can go ahead and give Tyreek Hill away for a ham sandwich. That's what I'm hoping for tonight. Because I don't think the Cincinnati Bengals are going to quit because they have that little carrot out there, the return of Joe Burrow. So I don't think that they're going to quit on coach or on the team and give up because they're like, hey, man, we just got to keep afloat until Joe Burrow gets back. So you have that sense of hope out there. A lot of other teams out there, when they go 0-3 and 0-4, all hope is out the window. Yep. At least the Cincinnati Bengals have the hope of the return of their superstar quarterback. So, like, I don't think they're going to quit. I actually think they're going to win this game tonight. I think ultimately they're going to get a turnover from Bo Nix to ice the game.
Well, Ann Anderson, she chimes in. She says, "Go Broncos! Make Bo Nix the next Peyton Manning." Well, Peyton that last year, or Peyton, with the Colts and early on in Denver. Nonetheless, our good friend Roe of the show, he's a friend of the show. Roe says, "I'm all in. We still have a chance. It'll be 24-10. Bengals win tonight."
Ooh.
Monday Night Football. Again, Denver a 7.5-point favorite. So I think that's kind of a large line. But yeah, I did not like what I saw from Cincinnati in their last game, like that against the Vikings. I mean, just got absolutely the doors blown off. So
yeah, I know. A lot of people put that loss all on Jake Browning and the defense. Well, I really don't put a lot on the defense or on Jake Browning. Like, everybody fumbled. Jamar fumbled, Noah Fant fumbled, running backs fumbled. Like, they were coughing up the ball. So when you cough up the ball, you're going to lead to a short field and lead to a lot of points. Because, I mean, you look at the score, you obviously 48-10 or something like that? Well, most of those points became because you fumbled the ball on your side of the field. So they only have to drive like 30 yards to score a touchdown. So you left your defense, a bad defense, in an even worse spot by turning the ball over left and right. You didn't even give yourself a chance.
Yeah, and by the way, Cincinnati, after tonight, they'll be at home against Detroit, at Green Bay. I mean, that's crazy. They only have, in the first 7 weeks, almost the first half of the season, only 2 home games. So they'll be at Denver tonight, at Detroit next week, or this weekend, whatever. And then they'll be at Green Bay, home against the Steelers. Then here's where their home games come. 3 straight home games. They'll have the Steelers, the Jets, and the Bears.
They have the Steelers on Thursday Night Football. This is a total Kev Nash tirade or a left turn. October 16th on Thursday Night Football. I'm going to be in Cincinnati that night for a concert. Traffic is going to be crazy that night.
Oh, I mean, T's and P's. T's and P's that, you don't have to have your team lose in the same city you're trying to fight through traffic against. Nonetheless.
Maybe I'll go to the game for the first half, go to the concert for the second half.
So Cincinnati, Monday Night Football tonight at Denver. That's the game on ABC. By the way, I thought yesterday there was it just felt like there wasn't a lot of games on yesterday, and it's because I don't like the doubleheaders on Monday night. You already have Thursday Night Football. We're going to get to the point later, and they're going to stretch this out. If Netflix wants to get greedy and not just have the Christmas games, they want to have Wednesday Night Football, they will get Wednesday Night Football. But only, I just don't get the purpose of 2 games on Monday Night Football. I really don't.
I don't understand it either. Kind of dilutes it. It's almost kind of has that college football appeal. There's multiple games on the ESPN networks, from ESPN to ABC to ESPN2. So they just blanketing you with football. But football is supposed to be like a standalone sport for whatever team is in your market or whatever. And then you get your bonus game on the other channel. So the Lions and the Bears are playing. I'll turn that on when my game is at commercial and stuff like that. I'm not a fan of the doubleheader on Monday. I like it maybe if it's a 7 o'clock game, like they used to do it back in the Mike and Mike days. 7 o'clock, you get a game, and then you get a 10 o'clock game. Yeah, you get a true doubleheader. These games are going to overlap. So, yeah, I'm not here for this, but I am here for the Dolphins losing.
Yeah, that's the other thing. The Keith Byers Bowl tonight. Jets and the Dolphins battle 0-3.
Who do you pick?
Oh, he always goes with the Dolphins. They treat him the best of all the teams, he says. The
Better weather.
Yeah.
I get it.
All right, before we wrap this, so we talked about your Steelers, the Bengals, big one tonight. Ravens in trouble. What's their?
They're in big trouble. They're in big trouble. Ndikwe is out for the rest of the season, neck injury. Lamar's dealing with a hamstring. Defense is a sieve. Marlon Humphrey has fallen off the cliff. Jair Alexander can't cover anybody anymore. So yeah, defense is all down to Kyle Hamilton. It's the Kyle Hamilton show. Yikes. He's a safety. He can't cover everybody. So yeah, it's bad for the Ravens right now. And you know what? As a beloved Pittsburgh Steelers fan, even though I say this all the time, my favorite player in the league is Lamar Jackson. But hey, man, at the end of the day, I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. So it is what it is, bro.
Jason Fitz will be on with us tomorrow.
Fitzy!
Obviously not on last week with me being out, but like we got a lot to catch up with him on. By the way, squeezing in Reds playoff talk and the Guards playoff talk. Kind of cool. It's funny. Both teams, we talked about this earlier today. So the Guardians were the Mets were free falling the way the Tigers were free falling. And the Tigers free fall along with the Guardians taking off. They did a different route. The Reds, everyone keeps saying they didn't backdoor the way. Hal McCoy just was on. He said they did it. I'm like, you're a Hall of Famer. You know more than me. But they did. They backdoored their way in. A lot had to happen. They got in because of what other teams weren't doing more than what they were doing, but they did still stand tall when it was all said and done. What the Guardians did down the stretch, they caught their house on fire and then got credit for putting it out. It's kind of wild what they did, but what a cool story for both Ohio teams.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is awesome. I mean, I still don't think we're going to get the battle of 71 in the World Series or anything like that anytime
your team's
soon.
Not going to do their end?
But it was definitely awesome. On Saturday when the Guardians clinched their spot, I immediately like, that's cool. Like, I wonder if the Reds can get in. And I looked, I was like, wait. So currently they're in the lead for the wild card. So basically it's a win in your in situation. So I was monitoring that all day long and things weren't going well for the Reds. But shouts out to the Mets and their nice payroll that they weren't able to win one game. They weren't able to win one game to punch their ticket to the playoffs.
Spend more. You hear that, Reds? That was the $360 million. You need to spend more than that if you want a chance at winning.
Goodness gracious, man. Laughing stock of baseball are the Mets. But shouts out to the Reds making the playoffs. They got to go out to LA to face the big bad Dodgers. But hey, man, it got to be proven on the field, man. And if you backdoor your way into the playoffs, so what?
Who cares?
Who cares? You're in the tournament. That's the biggest thing about it. You're in the tournament. Who knows what can happen from here? Yeah, you could get swept or you could do the sweeping.
Last thing, by the way, I did say I was watching the Reds yesterday. Now they're celebrating, they're having fun, but I'm like, man, I feel like I'm watching a mid-major team that just won their conference tournament to get their auto bid to the NCAA tournament. That's what it felt like
it's
yesterday.
Lit, though.
I'm not really judging it. I just want to get to the point, like Milwaukee, they won the regular season finale against the Reds yesterday. They high-fiving, excited, but they went right back into their clubhouse. Like, all right, playoffs are coming up next. I just thought it was kind of crazy. That's all.
Well, so what if they had, what if they had won that game to punch their ticket?
Oh, they acted like. What do you mean?
So like they won because
the
Met
they knew they were in already.
Yeah. So yeah, like if they had won that game and like, all right, we did it. We put our stuff together and we won the game that we had to win. Would you feel different?
I hate fun. No, yes, I would have felt different. It just still gave off mid-major vibes yesterday. I guess it'd be said about any of the teams, but at some point, it's like. It just thinks that we have to celebrate this hard, even after a loss yesterday, because God knows it could be another 15 years before we see this team get to the postseason again. But they're in tomorrow night, Reds, Dodgers, game 1. Tomorrow we'll have Jason Fitz on to talk college football and NFL. Let's see, who else do we have lined up for tomorrow? I'm drawing a blank. Sorry, I know I have a full interview schedule tomorrow for the show, so excited about that. But either way, we'll be talking plenty of Reds tomorrow. Tommy Thrall, voice of the Reds, radio voice, he's going to hop on with us. So we have that coming up. Browns, what's the point of Joe Flacco? What's the point of Joe? No, I'm not an anti-Flacco guy. Look, he made some throws yesterday that need to be caught. Mm-hmm. Every week, it's the same damn thing. He can't move. He slid for a first down 2 yards short, pissed me off like you wouldn't believe. I'm like, get him out. If he can't even slide for a first down, that's 2 yards away. So you have receivers. They have no receivers, none. Jerry Jeudy, I was a fan of. How do you put up 1,000 yards last year when you have no one throwing you the football? You have Joe Flacco who's putting the ball right in your damn hands and you keep dropping it, just like Amari Cooper was dropping it last year. Doesn't make sense. Tillman looked awesome the first couple weeks, and then his decline and got hurt and was out for most of the game yesterday.
Yeah.
They have the other kid, I forgot where he's an undrafted wide receiver that would make one highlight catch one moment and then has easy ones that's dropped through his hands. Joe Flacco looked like he was about to strangle him yesterday. Everyone's like, get Flacco out of there, get Flacco out of there. I agree, but I don't know how much that changes. Maybe there's some plays that the younger Dylan Gabriel could pick up with his legs from here and there, but the receivers stink. They have no pass catchers like I thought. I looked at the majority of the targets, like 60% of it's going to running backs and tight ends, which that's fine if you had some complimentary wide receivers to kind of spread it out. They have a lot of problems in this offense that I don't think switching quarterbacks is all of a sudden going to just fix some of those problems. You talked about Tyreek Hill earlier. That's the frustrating thing. If the Browns win that week 1 against the Bengals, you're 2-2 right now.
Right.
And I said it after they lost to the Bengals. I told you and everyone, I said, they are going to, this is the game that they lost that they should have won, and then they're going to win a game that they should lose moving forward. That was the Green Bay game because you talk about the turnovers the other day, about the problems with the turnovers, and that was the Browns yesterday as well. Joe Flacco, multiple turnovers, turned it over, and all the Lions had to do was just a couple plays, bam, they're scoring into the end zone or kicking a field goal. This is not complimentary football. That's a playoff defense. That's a Super Bowl caliber defense with a XFL caliber offense. I mean, it's just putrid right now. Love Quinshon Judkins. I was pissed that they didn't take Henderson. I actually love the fact that they got obviously Quinshon. They have problems. I just don't think switching the quarterback is going to fix those problems.
More physical. Quinshon is far more physical of a running back, which you kind of need in the AFC North. You need a physical running back to go along with the tight end attack that they got. But like my biggest thing is like, remember Njoku used to be real good
2 years ago.
He is non-existent right now. So I couldn't tell you what's wrong with the Cleveland Browns. I will say this to everybody out there that's screaming for Dylan Gabriel or Shador or whatever. How come it's only those rookies that you want to see on the field? How come you're not screaming for this rookie or that other rookie? So for me, I believe you. I'm with you. I don't think, all right, man, we're just going to plug in young quarterback that's still learning the NFL that was not a high draft pick into the offense, and then they're just going to work like magic. There's a reason why. There's a reason why you can't be screaming like, oh, man, Coach Stefanski is the coach of the year, and now he's a dummy. Can't have it both ways. He can't be the smartest coach in the world, and, oh, man, he won all these games with this quarterback, that quarterback, that quarterback, that quarterback, and now they're not winning games. So he's stupid. What is he doing? Can't have it both ways. You got to pick a side.
Yeah, and ultimately, I don't know if a new voice needs to be in the room or not. I still don't think you put any other head coach with this team. The receivers aren't better because the coach or whatever. So I'm done trying to die on the hill for Kevin Stefanski, but at some point, it's kind of like the David Bell thing. At some certain point, we saw what a managerial change in Cincinnati did. Is that all Tito? Kind of hard to argue when the guy does it everywhere he goes, and he was given pretty much the same roster, but that's a baseball conversation. Cleveland, they have what I meant earlier. I didn't finish my point about the Tyreek Hill thing.
Mm-hmm.
You beat Cincinnati, you're 2-2, and you stay at 500 a month into the season. You could justify giving up a piece to go get Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill would be awesome in Cleveland right now. It would be a pass catcher, but they have a lot more problems than just not having one pass catcher. It also just ticks me off because this defense is legit.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's
for sure.
It's legit. There you go. By the way, did you see the Lions play? Have you seen them play this year?
Yes.
They're pretty dang good.
Fun to watch.
And I thought they were going to take a hit. Ben Johnson.
Me too.
They haven't missed
outside of week 1.
They haven't missed a beat at all. I like Hutchinson. I hate him, but I like him at the same time. He's a Michigan guy, so I dislike him. But also so dramatic. He goes down yesterday. Everyone's the Lions fans in tears. I swear Ben was trying to text me, but his phone had tears on it. Then the camera goes back to him, and he's walking off the field just fine. Oh, it ticked me off. I'm like, that's what they cheater. They probably needed a timeout or something. He was probably cheating. You never know with those Michigan guys.
Yeah, never know. You never know. Me and Ben aren't cool anymore because, he's a Detroit guy, the Tigers and beloved Guardians. Tomorrow, 1:00. Don't talk to me.
He's mad because he bought me a Lions hat, and I don't wear it.
You're
I said,
a Browns
if I
fan.
bought you a Browns fan, would you wear it? And he said, yeah. And I'm like, well, that makes you a better friend than me, apparently. But that's besides the point. I'm not wearing the Lions hat. But nonetheless, all right, good stuff. That wraps it up for us here today. Thank you to the Hall of Famer Hal McCoy. That was awesome of him to give us some time. Again, the Reds are in the playoffs. How about that? We'll talk more tomorrow about what the Reds need to do to somehow look, the Hall of Famers takeaway was, I said, do they have enough to beat it? And he said, absolutely yes. Do they have enough? And because they have the most important piece to the puzzle, and that's pitching. So we'll talk more about that tomorrow with the Hall of Famer again. We'll have Tommy Thrall on, and we got a lot more to get into when it comes to the Reds and the Dodgers in the postseason, and we'll have that for you tomorrow night on 1410 ESPN Radio. That wraps it up for us. Until tomorrow, it's been the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers. Frickers, your home for fun, food, sports, and spirits.